Do the subtle shifts in the atmosphere around you sometimes suggest a depletion that lingers even after interactions, prompting a difficult, yet crucial, introspection? Could you, perhaps unintentionally, be the one subtly drawing vitality from those around you? Carl Jung, with his intricate understanding of psychic energy and its flow within the complex web of human relationships, recognized that the dynamic of energy exchange is rarely one-sided, often without conscious awareness or malicious intent. Our own unacknowledged psychological material can create an unconscious demand that leaves others feeling subtly or even profoundly drained. While society often readily identifies external energy vampires, a deeper understanding requires a courageous look inward, acknowledging the potential for our own unresolved issues to create an energetic imbalance in our interactions, to perpetually cast ourselves as only the recipient of energetic drain. To avoid examining our own contribution to these dynamics is a path that, while offering temporary self-protection, ultimately hinders genuine self-awareness and perpetuates patterns of relational imbalance. You may occasionally sense a subtle withdrawal from those you interact with, a weariness that seems to surface after spending time with you, even if the interactions appear positive on the surface. This unsettling possibility that you might be the one inadvertently draining others. Energy's a challenging truth to confront, yet it holds a powerful key to fostering healthier, more reciprocal connections. This video is not about assigning blame. It is an introspective journey into the subtle psychological mechanisms of energetic exchange in relationships, a practical guide to identify, understand, and ultimately transform any unconscious patterns within yourself that might be leaving others feeling depleted. Prepare yourself, for the wisdom you are about to receive promises a transformative unveiling of your relational dynamics and the path towards becoming a source of positive life, firming energy in your interactions. The first principle we must explore, often hidden beneath the surface of our conscious awareness, is the principle of unmet emotional needs as invisible demands. This principle suggests that when we carry significant, unacknowledged, or unmet emotional needs, perhaps stemming from past experiences of neglect, unresolved feelings of insecurity, or a deep-seated longing for validation, these needs can unconsciously manifest as subtle, yet persistent, demands on the energy of those around us. We might, without explicitly stating it, seek constant reassurance, excessive attention, or an endless supply of emotional support to fill an internal void that only we can truly address. This unconscious seeking can drain others, not because we are intentionally manipulative, but because our internal well is perceived as perpetually empty, leading us to unknowingly draw from the reserves of those nearby. This dynamic resonates deeply with Jung's understanding of the shadow self, particularly the wounded aspects of our psyche that we may not fully acknowledge or integrate. These unhealed parts can operate unconsciously, driving behaviors that seek external validation or soothing. Consider the archetype of the eternal child operating from the shadow. It craves constant attention and can become easily distressed, unintentionally monopolizing the energy of caregivers or those in close proximity. In mythology, figures burdened by unhealed wounds often unconsciously sought external remedies or saviors, sometimes at great cost to others. This principle highlights that our own internal state significantly impacts the energetic dynamics of our relationships, often in ways we don't fully realize. In contemporary life, this can manifest in various subtle ways. A person with deep-seated insecurity might constantly seek compliments or validation, subtly directing conversations towards their own achievements or seeking reassurance for their decisions, leaving others feeling like emotional support providers rather than equal participants. In a reciprocal exchange, someone who has experienced past emotional neglect might unconsciously monopolize conversations by focusing excessively on their own problems without showing equal interest in others, creating an imbalance in the flow of energy. Even a persistent need to feel understood can lead to lengthy explanations and reiterations, subtly draining the listener's patience and energy. To begin to address this, cultivate a practice of honest self-reflection regarding your emotional needs. When you find yourself consistently seeking external validation or support, pause and inquire, what specific need am I trying to fulfill in this moment? Is this a need that I can perhaps address myself, or is there a healthy and balanced way to seek support without depleting the other person? Engaging in practices like journaling, meditation, or seeking therapy can help bring these unconscious needs into conscious awareness, allowing you to take responsibility for meeting them in healthier ways and reducing the unintentional energetic drain on others. The second principle to consider is the principle of disowned negativity and blame. This principle suggests that when we struggle to acknowledge and process our own negative emotions, frustrations, or feelings of inadequacy, we may unconsciously project these onto others or external circumstances. This can manifest as chronic complaining, a tendency to blame others for our own misfortunes, or a generally negative outlook that permeates our interactions. This constant exposure to negativity can be profoundly draining for those around us, as they may feel compelled to offer solutions, absorb our pessimism, or constantly navigate our blaming narratives. It is not that we intend to bring others down, but our unwound negative energy creates a heavy atmosphere that others must consciously or unconsciously contend with. This relates to Jung's concept of the shadow, specifically the parts of ourselves that we deem bad, weak, or unacceptable, and therefore disown. These disowned aspects don't simply disappear. They often get projected outwards. The archetype of the scapegoat illustrates this tendency, where a community projects its collective negativity onto a single individual. In personal relationships, if we refuse to own our own frustrations, we might constantly find fault with others, creating a draining dynamic where they feel perpetually criticized or responsible for our negative feelings. In modern life, this principle can be observed in various contexts. A person who is deeply dissatisfied with their job but avoids taking responsibility for seeking change might constantly complain to colleagues, creating a toxic and draining work environment. In personal relationships, someone who struggles with their own insecurities might constantly criticize their partner or find fault with the relationship, projecting their inner negativity outwards. Even in online interactions, a pattern of consistently posting negative comments or engaging in cynical remarks can drain the collective energy of the community. To shift this pattern, cultivate the practice of acknowledging and processing your own negative emotions directly. When you feel frustrated or negative, instead of immediately externalizing blame or complaining, pause and ask, what am I truly feeling right now, and what is the root of this feeling within myself? Engaging in healthy coping mechanisms such as exercise, creative expression, or talking to a therapist can provide constructive outlets for these emotions. Taking responsibility for your own emotional state, rather than projecting it onto others, will significantly reduce the energetic drain you might be unintentionally causing. The third principle to examine is the principle of the unconscious need for drama and attention. This principle suggests that some individuals, often stemming from past experiences where attention or connection was only received during times of crisis or drama, may unconsciously create or perpetuate dramatic situations to feel seen, needed, or connected. This can manifest as frequent crises, exaggerated emotional reactions, or a tendency to involve others in complex interpersonal conflicts. While the individual might genuinely feel distressed, the underlying pattern can be energetically draining for those around them who are constantly pulled into these dramatic cycles, often feeling like they are on an emotional roller coaster. This pattern can be linked to various archetypal dynamics, including the drama triangle, where individuals unconsciously cycle through the roles of victim, rescuer, and persecutor. It can also relate to the histrionic aspect of the unintegrated animus, seeking attention through exaggerated emotional displays. In storytelling, the figure who thrives on chaos and constantly creates conflict, often without resolving. It illustrates the draining nature of this dynamic on the other characters in contemporary life. This can be seen in individuals who frequently create interpersonal conflicts in their social circles, constantly seeking validation through the drama. A person might consistently have emergencies that require immediate attention from friends or family, disrupting their lives and draining their energy. In online communities, individuals might engage in provocative behavior or constantly seek out arguments to gain attention and engagement. To address this, cultivate self-awareness around your patterns of seeking attention. When you find yourself in the midst of a dramatic situation, pause and ask, what need am I trying to meet through this drama? Is there a healthier, more direct way to seek connection or attention? Practicing self-soothing techniques and learning to regulate emotional intensity can help reduce the unconscious drive for dramatic engagement. Focusing on building connections based on genuine vulnerability and mutual interest rather than crisis can lead to more stable and less draining relationships. If you're gaining valuable insights from this exploration and feel a resonance with the potential for positive change in your relationships, consider subscribing to the channel and enabling notifications for more content that supports personal growth and If you recognize a deep desire to foster more balanced and energizing connections in your life, to move beyond unconscious patterns and cultivate genuine reciprocity, know that this journey of self-discovery is a courageous one. There are powerful principles and practices that can illuminate your path. In the pinned comment below, you'll find carefully curated resources designed to support your personal revolution towards more fulfilling and energetically balanced relationships. The fourth principle to consider is the principle of unsolicited advice and the subtle invalidation of others. This principle suggests that when we have a strong need to feel competent or in control, we might unconsciously offer frequent, unsolicited advice or subtly invalidate others' experiences and perspectives, while our intentions might be to help. This behavior can leave others feeling undermined, unheard, and ultimately drained of their confidence and autonomy. The subtle message conveyed is that their own judgment or approach is somehow inadequate, which can be deeply disempowering and energetically draining over time. This dynamic can be linked to the shadow aspect of the wise sage archetype, where wisdom tips into know-it-all behavior, or the unintegrated anima, expressing itself through a need to constantly fix or direct others. In narratives, the character who always has an answer or solution, often without truly listening to the other person's perspective, can be perceived as overbearing and energetically exhausting to be around. In modern life, this can manifest as A friend who constantly tells you what you should do in every situation, even when you haven't asked for advice. A colleague might frequently interject with their own better ideas without fully considering yours, leaving you feeling undervalued. Even well-meaning parents can inadvertently drain their adult children by constantly offering unsolicited opinions on their life choices. To shift this pattern, cultivate the practice of active and empathetic listening. Before offering advice, ask if it is wanted. Focus on truly understanding the other person's perspective and validating their feelings. Even if you don't agree with their approach, recognize that others have their own unique paths and solutions. Offering support and understanding rather than unsolicited direction fosters a more empowering and energetically balanced interaction. The fifth and final principle to consider is the principle of the unprocessed need for external stimulation. This principle suggests that individuals who struggle with internal stillness or lack a strong connection to their own inner world might unconsciously seek constant external stimulation, an engagement to avoid feeling bored, empty, or alone with their thoughts. This can manifest as a constant need for activity, a barrage of communication, or a tendency to fill silences and demand attention, which can be overwhelming and energetically draining for those around them who may have different needs for solitude and quiet reflection. This pattern can be linked to the unintegrated, pure puella archetypes, fear of stillness, and a constant seeking of novelty, or a discomfort with the shadow aspects that might surface in quiet moments. In stories, the character who is always on the go, constantly seeking the next adventure or social interaction and seemingly unable to be alone with themselves, often leaves others feeling breathless and unable to keep up in contemporary life. This can manifest as a friend who constantly texts or calls, even at inconvenient times. A colleague who fills every moment with chatter and avoids any quiet time in the office. A social media presence that is a constant stream of updates and interactions, implicitly demanding attention. To address this, cultivate a relationship with your own inner world. Practice mindfulness, meditation, or spending time in quiet solitude, without external distractions. Learn to be comfortable with your own thoughts and feelings. Find healthy ways to self-soothe and entertain yourself without constantly relying on external stimulation. By developing a stronger inner life, you can reduce the unconscious need to constantly draw energy and attention from others, leading to more balanced and less draining interactions. By understanding these 5 principles, we can begin to take responsibility for the energetic dynamics we create in our relationships. This journey of self-awareness, while challenging, is essential for fostering healthier, more reciprocal connections where energy flows in a balanced and life-affirming way. It is about moving from unconscious patterns that may drain others towards conscious behaviors that nourish and uplift both ourselves and those around us. Remember, this exploration is not about self-blame, but about empowerment. By understanding these potential unconscious patterns, you gain the ability to make conscious choices that foster more harmonious and sustainable relationships, becoming a source of positive energy rather than an unconscious drain. This journey of self-awareness is a continuous process, and with each step, you move closer to more authentic and energetically balanced connections in your life. In the comments below, reflect on which of these 5 principles resonates most. With your own experiences or observations, what small step will you commit to taking this week to become more mindful of your energetic impact on others? Your insights and willingness to engage in this self-reflection are valuable contributions to our community. If you found this exploration helpful and wish to continue deepening your understanding of relational dynamics and personal growth, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more empowering content. Together, we can cultivate greater awareness and foster more enriching connections in our lives.